I used to think the worst thing in life was being left behind. But you know what's worse? Being left behind when you're pregnant with twins, alone, with no savings, and no promises. Hi, I'm Hannah, 26 years old, a dropout architecture student, and a single mom to two little humans with the brightest smiles in the world. And this is the story of how the man who broke my heart came back 3 years later, begging for a chance to fix everything. But can I forgive the person who left me alone on the darkest nights of my life? Before I share my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit like and follow if you've ever fought through heartbreak for your family. Trust me, you're going to want to hear what happened next. The pregnancy test slipped from my trembling fingers, clattering against the bathroom tile. 2 pink lines, clear as day. I pressed my back against the cold wall and slid down until I was sitting on the floor, knees pulled to my chest. 7 months. That's how long Ethan and I had been together, if you could even call it that. Secret meetings in hotel rooms, stolen weekends when he flew down from New York to Austin, text messages that disappeared after reading. He'd made it clear from the start. No strings, no promises, no future. Just us, in the moment. I'd been stupid enough to think I could change his mind. My phone buzzed. Speak of the devil. Running late for dinner. Crisis at the office. Rain check. I stared at the message, then at the test in my hand. Crisis at the office. There was always a crisis at the office. Ethan Cole, the 29-year-old tech investor everyone called a genius, had built his life around crises and solutions and exit strategies. Everything except staying. I typed back, "We need to talk, it's important." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Is everything okay? My fingers hovered over the keyboard. No, nothing was okay. I was 26, still finishing my architecture degree, waiting tables to pay rent, and now, this. Just call me when you can. But he didn't call. Not that night, or the next. When he finally showed up at my apartment 3 days later, designer suit slightly wrinkled, eyes already calculating escape routes, I knew how this would end. Twins, I said, handing him the ultrasound photo. A boy and a girl. The color drained from his face. He set the photo on my coffee table like it might explode, then walked to the window, hands in his pockets. Hannah, I can't do this. Can't or won't. He turned, and for a moment I saw something crack in his carefully constructed armor. Fear. Raw, desperate fear. My parents destroyed each other, he said quietly. 15 years of lawyers and custody battles and using me as a weapon. I can't put a child through that. So your solution is to what? Pretend they don't exist? He pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. I'm transferring you $200,000 for medical expenses, whatever you need. I don't want your money. The words came out as a scream. I want you to stay. But Ethan was already at the door, his face a mask again. I'm taking the San Francisco position. It's better this way, for everyone. The door clicked shut with a finality that echoed in my chest. I sat there until the sun went down, until my legs went numb, until the reality settled in like concrete in my bones. I was alone. Savannah, Georgia welcomed me with humidity and Spanish moss, the complete opposite of Austin's dry heat. My Aunt Sarah lived in a small house on the edge of a working-class neighborhood where everyone knew everyone and privacy was a luxury no one could afford. You sure about this, baby? She asked, helping me unload my ancient Honda. At 6 months pregnant with twins, I could barely tie my shoes, let alone lift boxes. I can't stay in Austin, I said. Too many memories. What I didn't say, too many places where Ethan's ghost lingered, the coffee shop where we first met, the hotel bar where he'd drawn building designs on napkins while I talked about my dreams, the apartment where those dreams had shattered. The twins arrived early. As if eager to start complicating my life, Lila came first, screaming and perfect. Evan followed 3 minutes later, silent and blue. The NICU became my second home for 2 months. Your son has some developmental delays, Dr. Martinez explained gently. And your daughter. There's a small hole in her heart. It may close on its own, but we'll need to monitor it. I signed papers I couldn't afford, made payment plans that would take decades to complete, and learned to function on 2 hours of sleep. Some nights I'd stand between their cribs, watching their chests rise and fall, terrified that if I looked away, they'd stop breathing. The Single Mothers Support Group met in the basement of St. Mary's Church every Tuesday. 6 women, different stories, same exhaustion. First rule of single motherhood, said Denise, a woman with kind eyes and 3 teenagers. You accept help when it's offered. Pride don't pay the bills. She was right. I swallowed my pride and applied for WIC, learned which grocery stores doubled coupons, discovered that the thrift store on Maple had half-price Wednesdays. I took freelance design jobs, sketching house plans while the twins slept, turning other people's dreams into blueprints while mine gathered dust. But the bills kept coming. Lila's heart medication, Evan's speech therapy, rent, utilities, formula, diapers. One night, exhausted and desperate, I filmed myself reorganizing our tiny apartment, showing how I'd turned a closet into a nursery nook, how I'd built shelving from reclaimed wood found in alleys. I posted it on TikTok with the caption, "Making Magic in 500 Square Feet. Single Mom Life, a Tiny Home Big Love." I woke up to 10,000 views and hundreds of comments. Mothers sharing their own struggles. People asking for tips. A community I didn't know I needed. At Home by Hannah was born. 2 years passed in a blur of sleepless nights and small victories. Lila's surgery went well, the hole in her heart repaired by skilled hands and technology I'd never fully understand. Watching her wake up in recovery, reaching for me with her tiny fingers, I understood that motherhood was just a series of held breaths and released sighs. Evan still wasn't talking much, but he'd found his voice through art. Crayons, markers, paint. Anything he could get his hands on became a tool for expression. The refrigerator disappeared under layers of his creations. Wonky houses, 3-legged dogs, and people with smiles bigger than their faces. He's gifted, his therapist told me. The way he sees color and space. Hannah, this is special. Special. Another word for different. Another thing that would cost money I didn't have. My TikTok following grew to 50,000. Brands started reaching out. Small sponsorships that helped pad the grocery budget. I filmed during nap time, edited while making dinner, responded to comments after bedtime stories. It wasn't the architecture career I'd dreamed of, but it was mine. Then came the email that changed everything. We're opening a co-working space in Savannah and need someone to design the interiors. Your work on small spaces is exactly what we're looking for. The grind, coffee, and collaborative. A real job, real money, benefits. I met with the owner, Marcus, a Black entrepreneur who'd grown up in the neighborhood and wanted to give back. We talked for 3 hours about community and space and how design could change lives. When can you start? He asked. My kids, bring them. We're building a family-friendly workspace. Might as well start now. I floated home, already sketching ideas. For the first time in 3 years, I let myself dream about a future that wasn't just about surviving until tomorrow. The universe, it seems, has a twisted sense of humor. Because the next morning, while I was measuring the coffee shop space, discussing wall colors with Marcus, the door chimed and in walked Ethan Cole. He looked exactly the same. Expensive suit, calculated confidence, phone glued to his ear. He was mid-conversation. Something about square footage and investment potential when our eyes met. Time didn't stop. That only happens in movies. Instead, it stuttered, like a record skipping. His mouth kept moving, but no sound came out. The phone slipped an inch from his ear. Hannah? I turned back to my measurements, hand steady even though my heart was attempting to break free from my chest. Marcus, I think we should go with the sage green. It's calming, but professional. Hannah, wait! Excuse me, I said, not looking at him. I'm working. But then the door chimed again, and in rushed Lila and Evan, escaped from the playground where I'd left them with Miss Joyce from the daycare next door. Mama, look! Lila held up a handful of dandelions. I picked these for you. Evan tugged on my jeans, showing me his latest drawing. A man in a blue suit, standing alone under a rain cloud. I froze. Because Evan had never met his father, had never seen photos, had no reason to draw a man who looked exactly like the one standing 5 feet away, staring at him like he'd seen a ghost. They're yours, Ethan said. Not a question. A statement. His voice was hoarse, broken. I gathered my children close, Lila's flowers crumpling in my fist. We need to go. Hannah, please. No! The word came out sharp enough to cut. You don't get to please anything. You left. You chose San Francisco and stock options and whatever else mattered more than us. You don't get to stand there looking shocked that they exist. Evan peeked around my leg, studying Ethan with those serious artist eyes. Then he held up his drawing, offering it to the stranger who shared his nose, his chin, his hands. Ethan took it with shaking fingers. Thank you, he whispered. I scooped up both kids and fled, leaving behind my tape measure, my dreams of sage green walls, and the sound of a man learning what it meant to break. The video went viral overnight. Someone had filmed the whole encounter, the mysterious businessman, the single mother, the 2 children who looked like miniature versions of him. By morning, #billionaire's secret family was trending. My phone exploded with notifications, comments, messages, reporters identifying Ethan, digging into his background, his company, his net worth. They found my TikTok. They found my address. Mama, why are all those people outside? Lila asked, peering through the blinds at the news vans lining our street. I called in sick to work, keeping the kids home from preschool. We built a blanket fort in the living room and pretended the outside world didn't exist. But it did. It pressed against our windows, knocked on our door, shouted questions about child support and DNA tests, and did I plan to sue? Aunt Sarah came over with groceries and reinforcement. That boy better have a good explanation for all this mess. There is no explanation good enough, I said, exhausted. He made his choice. But by day 3, when reporters started approaching our neighbors, when the preschool called to say they were concerned about the disruption, when someone posted our address online and strangers started showing up, I was ready to move to Alaska. Then Ethan appeared at my door at 2 a.m., looking like he hadn't slept since our encounter. No suit this time. Jeans and a wrinkled t-shirt, baseball cap pulled low. I've hired a team, he said without preamble. PR, legal, security. They'll have this cleaned up by morning. I know you don't want anything from me, but they're my children too, and I won't let them be hurt because of my mistakes. The words, my children, hit me like a physical blow. Don't you dare. Don't you dare claim them now when it's convenient, when cameras are rolling. That's not what this is. Then what is it, Ethan? Guilt? Damage control for your IPO? He flinched. I deserve that. You deserve worse. We stood there in my doorway, 3 years of hurt and anger crackling between us like electricity. Then Evan appeared, dragging his favorite stuffed elephant, rubbing sleepy eyes. Mama, who's the sad man? Ethan made a sound like he'd been punched. I picked up Evan, but he kept staring at Ethan over my shoulder. Are you the man in my pictures? Evan asked. The one under the rain? Yeah, Ethan whispered. I think I am. Why are you always in the rain? Because, Ethan said slowly, I made a mistake. A big one. And now I'm trying to find my umbrella. Evan considered this with 4-year-old seriousness. Then he wiggled out of my arms, padded back to his room, and returned with a picture. Another man, in blue, but this time holding a bright yellow umbrella, a smile on his face. You can have this one, he said, offering it to Ethan, until you find yours. Ethan took the picture like it was made of gold. Thank you. After I put Evan back to bed, I found Ethan still standing in my doorway, staring at the drawing. He's incredible, he said. They both are. Hannah, your team, I interrupted. Will they really make this stop? By morning, you have my word. I laughed bitterly. Your word hasn't meant much. I know, but it's all I have right now. He was right. By morning, the vans were gone. The online posts disappeared. A carefully crafted statement explained that Mr. Cole was handling private family matters and requested privacy. The internet moved on to the next scandal. But I couldn't move on. Because now Ethan knew. And worse, the kids knew something too. Lila had started asking why we didn't have a daddy like her friend Emma. Evan drew more pictures of the sad man, slowly adding details. A briefcase, a phone, always alone. My phone rang. Marcus. Job's still yours if you want it, he said. Actually, I'm hoping you do. Cole's investment depends on you being our designer. What? Didn't he tell you? He's our main investor, has been from the start. Said he wanted to invest in the community where his family lived. I thought he meant his parents or something. I hung up and threw my phone across the room. It survived. I wasn't sure I would. Against every instinct screaming in my head, I took the job. We needed the money, the health insurance, the stability. If Ethan wanted to throw his money at the coffee shop, fine. I'd take my paycheck and maintain professional distance. It worked for exactly 1 week. Hannah, can you look at these numbers? Marcus asked, spreading financial documents across my desk. Something's not adding up with the contractor bills. I'd minored in business, knew enough to read spreadsheets. What I found made my stomach drop. Shell companies billing for work never done. Materials ordered but never delivered. Someone was bleeding the project dry. You need to tell Ethan, I said. He's in New York. Some emergency with his fiancée. Fiancé. The word shouldn't have hurt, but it did. Of course he'd moved on. Of course there was someone else. Someone who fit into his world of board meetings and charity galas. But we needed to stop the theft before it killed the project. I swallowed my pride and called him. Hannah? He answered on the first ring, like he'd been waiting. Is everything okay? The kids are fine. It's the coffee shop. Someone's embezzling. Silence. Then, send me everything. I'll catch the next flight. He was there by evening, sleeves rolled up, going through every receipt, every invoice. We worked in silence, the old rhythm still there despite everything. He'd point, I'd calculate, I'd flag something, he'd investigate. By midnight, we'd traced it back to a consulting firm in New York. RC Consulting, Ethan said slowly. Amanda's company. Your fiancé is stealing from you? He laughed, but it was sharp, bitter. Apparently, though I'm starting to wonder what else she's been lying about. His phone buzzed, a text that made his face go white. What? I asked. He turned the screen toward me. A photo of our kids at the playground, taken from a distance. The message below, stop digging or the next photo won't be from afar. You have so much to lose now, Ethan. I was out of my chair, reaching for my phone to call Aunt Sarah, but Ethan caught my hand. They're safe. I have security watching the house. Security? Since when? Since the media circus. I told you I wouldn't let them be hurt because of me. And now your fiancé is threatening them. Ex-fiancé, he corrected quietly, as of about 5 minutes ago. We called the police, filed reports, documented everything. But Amanda was smart. The threats came from burner phones, the embezzlement hidden under layers of legal corporate structures. We need more proof, Detective Morrison said. Without it, it's your word against hers. So we kept digging. Ethan moved into a hotel in Savannah, spending his days untangling Amanda's web and his evenings sitting in his rental car outside our house. I knew because Evan told me about the sad man who watched them play. Why doesn't he come inside? Lila asked one night. It's complicated, baby. Is it because he made you cry? I pulled her close. When did you see me cry? Sometimes at night, when you think we're sleeping. 4-year-olds see everything. The next evening, I found Ethan in his usual spot, laptop balanced on the steering wheel, empty coffee cups littering the passenger seat. I knocked on his window. You're scaring the neighbors. Sorry, I can move down the street. Or you could come inside. The kids want to meet you properly. He looked at me like I'd offered him the moon. Are you sure? No. But they're asking questions I don't know how to answer. And despite everything, you're their father. They deserve to know you. But Ethan, if you hurt them, if you leave again, I won't. The words came out fierce, desperate. Hannah, I know I destroyed any trust between us. I know I failed you in every way possible, but I swear I won't fail them. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. 1 hour, and if they ask who you are, you tell them you're Mama's friend. Nothing more until I say otherwise. He nodded, eagerly, following me inside like he was entering a cathedral. Lila and Evan were coloring at the kitchen table, and they looked up with identical curious expressions. Kids, this is Mr. Ethan. He's helping Mama with work stuff. Are you the sad man? Evan asked immediately. I'm trying not to be, Ethan said, sitting carefully at the table. What are you drawing? A dragon, Lila announced, but a nice one. He protects people instead of eating them. That's the best kind of dragon. They peppered him with questions. Did he like blue? Evan's favorite color. Could he reach the high shelf where Mama hid the cookies? He could, but wisely deferred to me. Did he know any stories? I know one, he said, glancing at me for permission. About a knight who made a terrible mistake and spent years trying to fix it. He told the story while they colored, about the knight who left his kingdom to fight distant battles, not realizing the real treasure was at home. It was transparent and heartbreaking, and the kids hung on every word. Did he ever make it home? Lila asked. He's trying, Ethan said softly. Every day, he's trying. After they went to bed, we sat on the porch steps, the evening heavy with humidity and unspoken words. They're amazing, he said. You've done an incredible job. No thanks to you. I know. He was quiet for a moment. My father left when I was 7, came back when I was 12, made promises, then left again. Then came back when I was 16, repeat performance. I swore I'd never do that to a child. So when you told me about the pregnancy, all I could think was that leaving immediately was better than leaving later. That's the stupidest logic I've ever heard. I know that now. Therapy helped me see it. You're in therapy? He laughed humorlessly. Court mandated at first, after I crashed my car driving drunk 6 months after I left. Hit rock bottom, realized I was becoming my father anyway, just with better suits. I processed this information, trying to reconcile it with the Ethan I'd known. And Amanda? Rebound that turned into a business arrangement that I mistook for love. She wanted the lifestyle. I wanted to feel less alone. We deserved each other, I guess. Nobody deserves to be stolen from and threatened. Maybe it's karma. We sat in silence, watching fireflies dance in the dying light. For a moment, I could almost pretend the last 3 years hadn't happened, that we were just 2 people on a porch, figuring out life together. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello? You have such beautiful children, a woman's voice purred. Be a shame if something happened to them. Ethan snatched the phone. Amanda, I swear to God. Oh, hello, darling. Enjoying your little family reunion. I wonder how the media would react to know you're playing house with your secret baby mama. The board would love that story. You're the one who leaked it to the media in the first place, aren't you? She laughed. Prove it, just like you can't prove anything else. Back off the investigation, or I'll make sure those children grow up very, very sad. The line went dead. I was shaking. Ethan pulled me against him, and I let him because I needed something solid to hold on to. We're going to stop her, he said into my hair. I promise you, we're going to stop her. How? She's got money, lawyers, connections, and I've got more. But Hannah, I need you to trust me. I know I don't deserve it, but I trust you to protect them, I said, pulling away. That's all I can give you right now. It would have to be enough. We became a strange kind of team over the next 2 weeks. Ethan hired private investigators, forensic accountants, the best lawyers money could buy. I documented everything, my architecture training making me meticulous about details. We built our case like we were designing a building. Foundation first, then walls, then proof. The kids adapted to Ethan's presence with the resilience only children possess. He became Mr. E, who fixed bicycles and read stories with funny voices and knew all about buildings and bridges. Evan started drawing him with colors instead of rain clouds. Lila declared he gave the best piggyback rides. I watched it all with a heart wrapped in barbed wire, wanting to protect them from the inevitable disappointment while secretly hoping I was wrong. Amanda escalated. Fake health department complaints about the coffee shop. Anonymous calls to child services. Quickly dismissed, but terrifying nonetheless. Photos of the kids appearing on gossip sites with nasty captions about gold-digging mothers. I can't do this anymore, I told Ethan after a particularly vicious article suggested I'd trapped him for money. Maybe we should just let her win. Close the investigation, let her have whatever she wants. No. He grabbed my shoulders, gentle but firm. Hannah, that's what she's counting on, wearing us down. We're close, I can feel it. We. There is no we, Ethan. There's you and your corporate drama, and there's me trying to keep our kids safe. Our kids, he repeated softly. You said our. I hadn't meant to. But somewhere between late-night strategy sessions and shared dinners and watching him teach Evan to throw a baseball, the walls I'd built had developed cracks. Don't read into it, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Marcus's cousin worked IT for Amanda's company and had noticed strange activity on the servers. She's been accessing files remotely, he explained, showing us logs. Downloading client information, financial records. If she's planning to run, she's cleaning house, Ethan finished, getting everything she can before we expose her. We had 48 hours before she'd likely disappear with millions in stolen assets and client data. Ethan wanted to handle it quietly, corporate style. I had other ideas. You said she leaked our story to the media, I said. What if we return the favor? Hannah, no. If this goes public, it could hurt the kids. The kids are already hurt, but maybe it's time to control the narrative. I'd learned something from my TikTok experience. People responded to truth, especially when it came from the source. So I did what I did best. I told our story. The video was simple. Me, sitting in the half-finished coffee shop speaking directly to the camera. 4 years ago, I fell in love with someone who was afraid to love me back. When I told him I was pregnant with twins, he ran. I don't blame him anymore. Fear makes us do terrible things. I raised my babies alone, built a life from scratch, found strength I didn't know I had. I talked about the media circus, about threats to my children, about a woman so consumed by greed she'd destroy innocent lives for money. But here's what she didn't count on, I said, looking directly into the lens. She didn't count on their father finally finding his courage. She didn't count on us fighting back, and she definitely didn't count on me being done with staying quiet. I posted it on a Friday night. By Saturday morning, it had 3 million views. The internet, it turns out, loves a good redemption story with a clear villain. Amanda's name trended. People dug up dirt she'd buried. Former employees came forward with their own stories. The FBI got involved when someone reported the client data theft. She was arrested Sunday evening trying to board a flight to Switzerland. It's over, Ethan said, collapsing on my couch after giving his statement to federal investigators. It's finally over. The kids were asleep, the house quiet except for the ancient air conditioner's hum. We sat in the semi-darkness, exhausted and relieved and somehow closer than we'd been in years. Thank you, he said, for trusting me, for letting me help. I did it for them. I know. He turned to face me. Hannah, I need to tell you something. Ethan, please. I've been practicing this with my therapist for months. He took a breath. I love you. I've loved you since that first night at the gallery when you spent 20 minutes explaining why modern architecture lacked soul. I loved you when you were ordering terrible takeout at 3 a.m. and sketching dream houses on napkins. I loved you when you told me you were pregnant and I was too much of a coward to say it. Stop. I love you now, he continued, ignoring my protest. When you're covered in finger paint and coffee grounds, when you're fierce and protective and absolutely terrifying when someone threatens our kids. I love you, and I know I destroyed any chance of you loving me back, but I needed you to know, because I'm done running from the truth. I stood up, needing distance, needing air. He followed me to the porch where fireflies still danced their ancient patterns. You don't get to do this, I said, voice shaking. You don't get to show up 3 years later and say everything I needed to hear then. I know. You broke me, Ethan. When you left, you broke something in me that I'm still trying to fix. I know. I can't, my voice cracked. I can't survive you leaving again, and I won't let them survive it. He stepped closer, not touching, just near enough that I could feel his warmth in the humid night. What if I promise to stay? Promises are just words. Then let me show you. Every day, let me show you. I looked at him then. Really looked. He wasn't the polished executive I'd fallen for 4 years ago. There were lines around his eyes, silver threading through his hair. He looked older, worn down, real. I'm not asking you to love me back, he said quietly. I'm just asking for the chance to earn your forgiveness, to be the father they deserve, to be the man I should have been. A sound from inside, Evan calling out in his sleep. I moved instinctively, but Ethan was already at the door. I've got it, he said. If that's okay? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Listened as he padded down the hall, heard Evan's sleepy voice and Ethan's low response. The quiet rustle of covers being adjusted, the soft click of the nightlight. When he came back, I was crying. Hannah, I can't forgive you yet, I said through the tears. I want to, but I can't. Not yet. I'll wait. It might take forever. Then I'll wait forever. We stood there as the night deepened. 2 people separated by 3 feet and 3 years, connected by 2 children, and the possibility that broken things could be mended, given time and patience and love. Stay for breakfast, I heard myself say. The kids would like that. His smile was worth the risk. I'd like that too. Summer arrived with a vengeance, turning Savannah into a steam bath. The coffee shop opened to great fanfare, my designs featured in local magazines. From TikTok to Triumph, Single Mom Designs, revolutionary community space. Ethan stayed. Not in my house. Boundaries were important. But he rented a place 3 blocks away, close enough to walk over for breakfast, far enough to give us space. He learned the rhythm of our lives. Therapy on Tuesdays, swim lessons on Thursdays, church with Aunt Sarah on Sundays, where he endured 2 hours of suspicious glares from her prayer circle. Daddy! Lila shrieked one August afternoon, launching herself at him from the porch steps. We both froze. She'd said it so naturally, like she'd been saying it forever. I'm sorry, Ethan said quickly, looking at me. I didn't tell her to. It's okay, I interrupted, surprising myself. If she's ready, it's okay. Evan took longer, still calling him Mr. E, still watching with those serious eyes. But the drawings changed. The sad man under the rain became a family under a rainbow. 4 figures holding hands. That's us, he explained, adding purple to the sky. When we're all together. The coffee shop thrived. We expanded, adding a children's area I designed with hidden storage and washable everything. Other single parents found community there, sharing the load while their kids played. It became what I'd needed years ago, a place where exhaustion was understood and judgment left at the door. Ethan officially stepped back from his company, maintaining ownership but promoting his CFO to CEO. "I spent 10 years building an empire," he told me over coffee one morning. "I'd rather spend the next 10 building a family." "We're not a family," I reminded him, but the words felt hollow. Because we kind of were. Messy and complicated and held together with duct tape and hope, but family nonetheless. He knew how Lila needed her sandwich cut in triangles, not squares. He'd discovered that Evan would talk more during art time, hands busy with creation. He showed up for doctor's appointments and school events and 2 a.m. stomach bugs. "You're good at this," I told him one night after he'd spent an hour building an elaborate block tower just so Evan could knock it down. "Better than I expected." "I had a good teacher," he said, smiling at me in that way that still made my stomach flip. "The best, actually." The walls around my heart were crumbling, brick by brick. Fall arrived with its blessed cooler air and the kids' first day of pre-K. I ugly cried at drop-off while Ethan took pictures and pretended he wasn't misty-eyed too. "Want to grab coffee?" he asked as we stood in the empty parking lot. "Celebrate surviving until school age?" "It's 8:30 in the morning." "Irish coffee?" I laughed despite myself. "Tempting, but I have work." "Me too. I'm consulting for a nonprofit that builds affordable housing." "Thought maybe you'd want to collaborate on the designs?" Of course he was. Of course he'd found a way to weave our professional lives together as seamlessly as he'd inserted himself into our personal one. "I'll think about it," I said, but we both knew I'd say yes. October brought Halloween and the first time we felt like a real family in public. The kids insisted on coordinating costumes, dinosaurs, with Ethan and I wrangling them as paleontologists. We trick-or-treated through the neighborhood, Ethan carrying Evan when his legs got tired, me braiding glow sticks into Lila's hair when she decided her costume needed sparkles. "This is nice," Ethan said as we watched them race to the next house. "Yeah," I admitted, "it is." He reached for my hand. I let him take it. Later, after sugar crashes and bath time battles, we sat on the porch watching the last of the trick-or-treaters. "I love you," he said simply. "Still, always, in case you were wondering." I wasn't wondering. Liar. I smiled despite myself. "Yeah, okay. Maybe I was wondering a little." And? And I was falling in love with him again. Or maybe I'd never stopped. But love wasn't trust, and trust wasn't forgiveness. And we still had so far to go. "And I'm thinking about it," I said finally. He squeezed my hand. "I'll take it." November brought Thanksgiving and the annual Miller family gathering. Aunt Sarah had finally stopped calling Ethan that boy, and upgraded to his actual name, which felt like progress. "You coming to dinner?" she asked him while we prepped pies. "If I'm invited," she harumphed. "Can't have those babies' daddy eating alone on Thanksgiving. Plus, you make better stuffing than Hannah." "Hey," I protested. "Truth hurts, baby," she said, then pointed a flour-covered finger at Ethan. "But you hurt her again, and I know where to hide bodies. We clear?" "Crystal," he said solemnly. Dinner was chaos in the best way. 15 relatives crammed around mismatched tables, kids running between legs, stories flowing like wine. Ethan fit in like he'd always been there, charming my gossipy aunts and talking sports with my cousins. "He's trying real hard," Aunt Sarah observed, watching him help Evan cut his turkey. "I know. You gonna let him succeed?" I watched my children, our children, laugh at something Ethan whispered, their faces bright with happiness and security. "Maybe," I said. "Yeah, maybe I am." December arrived with unusual cold, frost painting the windows like Evan's art. The kids were vibrating with Christmas excitement, lists for Santa growing daily. "We need to talk about presents," Ethan said one evening. "I may have gone overboard." "Define overboard." He showed me a photo on his phone. His living room looked like a toy store had exploded. "Ethan, you can't. That's too much." "I missed 3 Christmases," he said quietly. "I know I can't buy their love, but—" "Hey," I touched his arm. They already love you. You know that, right? He looked at me with such vulnerable hope that my heart cracked a little more. Do they? Lila tells everyone her daddy is the strongest man in the world. Evan draws you in every family picture. Yes, Ethan, they love you. And their mother? The question hung between us, delicate as spun glass. I thought about all the moments over the past months, how he'd learned to braid Lila's hair from YouTube videos, how he'd sit for hours letting Evan paint his nails because it helped with fine motor skills, how he'd shown up day after day, proving that staying was a choice he'd make forever. Their mother is considering it, I said softly. He stepped closer, hand cupping my cheek. What would it take? For you to more than consider? Time, patience, proof that when things get hard, you won't. I won't run, he finished. Never again. We were so close I could see the gold flecks in his eyes, could smell his cologne mixed with finger paint from Evan's art session. Hannah, he breathed. Can I? The kids burst through the door, covered in glitter from their Christmas craft project at preschool. The moment shattered, but maybe that was okay. We had time. Christmas morning dawned bright and cold. The kids tore through presents while Ethan and I drank coffee and tried to manage the chaos. He'd scaled back the gifts after negotiation, but there were still too many. One more, he said, pulling out a small wrapped box. For you. Ethan, we said no gifts between us. Just open it. Inside was a key on a simple keychain. Is this? To my place, in case of emergencies, or if you want to come over, or if... He ran a hand through his hair, nervous. I just wanted you to know you're always welcome. I stared at the key, this small piece of metal that somehow felt heavier than it should. Thank you, I whispered. Later, after dinner and chaos and sugar-crashed children, we walked to the park. The kids ran ahead to the swings while we followed slowly. It's been a good day, Ethan said. The best, I agreed. He stopped walking, turning to face me. Hannah, I need to ask you something. My heart stuttered. Okay. Would you go on a date with me? A real date. Dinner, adult conversation, no discussing the kids' bowel movements or Evan's latest artistic medium. I laughed. Are you asking me out, Mr. Cole? I'm asking for a chance to court you properly this time, to do all the things I should have done 4 years ago. We're kind of doing this backwards. When have we ever done anything the traditional way? He had a point. Okay, I said. One date. His smile could have powered the city. Really? Really? But Ethan? I stepped closer, decision made. You should know I'm terrified. I'm terrified of letting you all the way in. Of giving you the power to break us again. I know, he said, voice rough. I'm terrified too. Terrified I'll screw up, that I'm not enough, that you'll realize you're better off without me. Guess we'll be terrified together. Together, he repeated like a prayer. The kids called for us to watch their swing contest. We stood side by side, cheering them on, and I let myself imagine this could be forever. New Year's Eve arrived with little fanfare. The kids were asleep by 9, worn out from a day at the Children's Museum. Ethan and I sat on the couch, watching the ball drop on TV, sharing a bottle of wine. Resolutions? I asked. Just one, he said. To be the man you all deserve, every single day. That's a big resolution. I'm a big resolution kind of guy. Midnight approached. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Hannah? Ethan turned to me, eyes serious. Whatever happens this year, however long it takes, I want you to know. 3, 2, 1. He kissed me, soft and sweet and full of promise. 4 years dissolved into nothing. We were just two people starting over, building something new from the ashes of what we'd burned. I love you, I whispered against his lips. God help me. I never stopped. He pulled me closer, and I could feel him shaking. Say it again. I love you, Ethan Cole. Despite everything, because of everything, I love you. We stayed there on the couch, holding each other, whispering promises and plans. Outside, fireworks painted the sky in brilliant colors. Inside, two broken people finally found their way home. In the morning, Lila crawled between us, Evan not far behind. They chattered about dreams and breakfast and could we go to the park today? Whatever you want, Ethan said, pressing kisses to their heads. Today and always. I watched my family, our family, pile together in a tangle of limbs and laughter. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It was messier, harder, more beautiful than anything I could have imagined. Mama's crying, Evan observed, reaching up to pat my cheek. Happy tears, I assured him. The happiest tears. Ethan reached over the kids to take my hand, wedding ring catching the morning light. We'd gotten married at the courthouse 2 weeks after New Year's. Aunt Sarah and the kids our only witnesses. Simple, perfect, real. No more sad man in the rain, Evan declared, snuggling closer. Just happy family in the sunshine. That's right, baby, I said, meaning it with every fiber of my being. Just happy family in the sunshine. And for the first time in 4 years, I believed in forever.